Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to another video. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Melissa and around here we do all types of beauty content. I upload a video 2 times every week on Mondays and Wednesdays, and if you like beauty content, then you're in the right place. So what you're in for today is our weekly eyeshadow palette tutorial and review. I do one of these videos every single Monday and I absolutely love doing them. I have a special thing for eyeshadow palettes. I just love eyeshadow palettes, probably the most thing out of makeup in general. And creating an eyeshadow look is a great way for me to relieve any anxiety and stress that I have. Usually I start this video barefaced, but today I have a little bit of makeup on, not very much, just a few things that I wanted to play with. And if you're interested in anything I'm going to be using today or anything that I currently have on my face, I always list that down below in the description box. So if you're curious about this week's palette, we're dipping into a little drugstore today and we're using Black Radiance Beauty. I never ever hear people talk about this brand and I wonder why. This is such a phenomenal brand. Every single thing that I've tried from them has been spot on. I can't wait to show you how this palette works, and if you're looking for a great green tone palette, this is the one for you. This palette only costs $3 and it is super pretty. The look that we're going to be creating with this is a little funky today. It's called an underbrow blend. Personally, I think it looks really cool, but depending on what kind of eyeshadow looks you like, you may be here or there on it, but you can do a ton of things with this palette, and we'll get into more of that during the review. So if you're interested in hearing my personal experience with this, my in-depth thoughts, then stay around to the second part of this video where we're gonna deep dive into this and you'll hear everything about this. But for the time being, let's get right into the tutorial. Hey guys, welcome to the tutorial part of this video, which is part 1, and we're about to get started. If you've been around here a couple times, then you know I like to get started with my prep steps, and I already went ahead and moisturized my eye with some fresh eye cream. And for today's look, we're definitely going to go ahead and tight line, so I'm just going to take a black pencil eyeliner and tight line my upper lash line. So the next thing I'm going to dip into is a little bit of eyeshadow primer, and I'm going to put this on my entire eye area all the way up to my eyebrow. And the last thing that I'm going to do for prep steps is go into my finishing powder and set my eye primer. Now we're ready to dip into this beautiful color story. The thing is about this palette though is it's kind of hard to open, and if you have nails then beware because you can really break your nails on this type of packaging. Now if you have a microfiber towel, make sure you grab that out because we're going to be using the same brush for the first 3 steps, so we're going to have to wipe it off a few times, so a microfiber towel really does the trick. And the first brush I'm taking is a really thin flat brush, and this is a really good for precision placement. Now none of these shades in here have names, so I'm just going to call them out by color. The first shade I'm dipping into is the darkest green matte, and I want to put the shade under my entire length of my eyebrow. But the thing is, I'm going to start a little bit in from the edge of my eyebrow because I'm going to want to blend this so it doesn't look super awkward. So I'm going to start probably about right here. And I'm going to continue this line throughout the entire eyebrow. Now I wiped the pigment off of my brush and I'm kind of going to give this a quick blend a little bit just so it's even in tone. You can definitely blend with the same brush that you apply it with if you're using the same kind of brush that I'm using. And now see this front part that we kind of left bare? I'm going to take my brush and flick that forward so it blends out. See how we have a nice gradient from basically the edge of my nose all the way up to my eyebrow? That's what you want it to look like. Now with the clean brush, I'm going into the mid-tone matte green, and I'm going to follow the same exact shape with the shade. And you definitely want to start it at that same place we started the first shade with because we're going to do that same technique where we blend it out. Now with a clean brush, I'm going to blend this shade up a little bit so it meshes with that first shade. And I'm also going to blend it down a little bit so it's prepped for our third shade. And then I'm going to do the same technique in the front where I'm going to swipe it forward. So now with my clean brush, I'm going into the lightest matte shade. And I'm going to do the exact same thing I just did with the other 2 shades. And don't forget to blend the little front part forward. Now, if you can see, I have a big line right here between the first 2 shades. So I'm going to take some more of that first deepest shade. And I'm going to apply it to the top and kind of blend it a little bit down so it meshes with the second shade more. Now, once you get it blended to the point where you're satisfied, we're gonna go ahead and add the tail part. So I'm just gonna take the same brush. I did go ahead and wipe it off, and I'm going into the dark black sequin shade, and I made sure to get the powder on the tip of the brush because we're gonna go ahead and stamp this. So I'm gonna go to the end point of this shape, and I'm gonna stamp this pretty heavily on the bottom portion. So you want a solid line about this wide. I cleaned off my brush about halfway. I still have a little teeny bit of pigment on there. And I'm gonna go ahead and swipe this inward toward that green shape. So here's what everything looks like when I'm done blending inward. And now we're gonna put on our lid colors to kind of match what we did up here. I also wanted to put some odd colors on the lid to kind of make a contrasting statement, so that's what I kind of did. I'm just gonna go ahead and clean off this brush and stick with the same one. So the first color I'm gonna put on is the metallic light blue, and I'm putting this in the outer third of the lid. And now I'm going into the bright teal metallic, and I'm gonna pop this on the center of the lid. And then finally, I'm going into that black sequin again, and I'm putting this on the inner third. So that's our fun lid, and our lower lash line's kind of fun too. The first thing I did though is take that same black pencil liner and fill in my waterline. And for our lower lash line, what I'm going to do is replicate the same gradient that we have going on top. So the first shade I'm going into is that dark green matte. And I'm gonna put this on the very outer portion of the lower lash line. And then for the center, I'm doing the mid-tone matte. And then for the inner part, I'm taking the lightest matte. And then for the very inner corner, I'm taking the really light lime green shimmer. And I'm just gonna stamp this into the inner corner part. And that's the whole eye look. Now, essentially, you're gonna wanna clean up all this fallout and just even out this lower lash line so it doesn't have all this old dust underneath there. So what I'm gonna do is go off camera, do my other eye, put some mascara on, and I'll be right back and we'll talk about this look. Okay guys, I'm back and here's the finished eye look. And what can I say about this? This is a very green look. Now, I personally don't like it with this lip because it looks too Christmassy for me. But not only was this look really fun to create, but I think it's definitely a statement look as well. But as for this style of look, I definitely would create this again. I think it's really fun and I think it's a little bit out there and I love weird stuff. But with all that being said, let's get right on into the review. Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of this video, which is the in-depth review, and you're here for a treat because we're going to be talking about a really awesome palette today. And here it is. This is from Black Radiance Beauty, which is a drugstore brand, and you can find this palette for only $3. This is called the Jaded palette, and rightfully so. It has all the colors of jade and more. So a little bit about the outer packaging. We have a plastic casing packaging, which is my favorite because it does do a good job of protecting all the eyeshadows inside. I do find this very difficult to open, and especially if you have nails, this might do some damage to them. When you open it up, this palette does not fold all the way back, and there is no mirror inside. And here's your layout. You're getting 12 different shadows in here, each one weighing 0.63 grams each. So in my opinion, that's significantly below the average amount per pan. This palette was made in China, and this is a mixture of eyeshadows and pressed pigments, so if you're sensitive to pressed pigments, please be mindful of that. Within this little tiny palette, you're getting 4 different formulas. You're getting 3 matte shades, 1 sequin shade, 6 shimmer shades, and 2 metallics. So let's move right on into our routine data check. Nowhere is this clarified as being any type of clean or conscious formula. This palette is cruelty-free. It is also vegan, and there is no expiration date located anywhere on this palette. So moving right into our cost evaluation, like I said, if you went out and bought this palette as it is say, it would cost you $3.33. Breaking that down a little bit, it comes to 28 cents per shade. And breaking that down a bit further, it comes to 44 cents per gram. So comparing this palette to other palettes available on the market, the cost per shade is excellent. And additionally, this palette has a relatively affordable cost per gram as compared to other palettes that I've previously reviewed. So real quick, I'm going to pop up a picture of some swatches that I took from this palette so you can see how every shade looks swatched out. Alright guys, now moving into the most opinionated part of this video, which is my recommendation. The first 4 things we're going to talk about is patching, creasing, staining, and blendability. As far as patchiness, I didn't experience any whatsoever. As for creasing, I didn't have any of that either. Now talking about staining, I did experience some staining with some of these shades. And if you want to talk about blendability, I found these shades very, very easy to blend out. Now regarding kickback and fallout, all these shades have a pretty decent amount of kickback in the pan, and I did get a pretty substantial amount of fallout on my face, especially from these 2 metallic shades. Now we're moving into my critiques, okay? So I really do like that this palette goes from light to mid-tone to deep, and there are different variations of depth in this palette, so it gives this palette more versatility. As I was playing with this palette and swatching it and all that stuff, I didn't find any sort of shade redundancy in here. Each shade serves a different unique purpose. If you are a person that loves traditional neutral transition shades, you are not going to find any in this color story. Doing the math on this palette, it stands 67% non-matte heavy. So if you're a person that likes balanced layouts or matte heavy, this probably would not be too much up your alley. Now there's not necessarily a matte black in this palette, but there is this shade and this shade which do kind of pull black, and you could use those kind of as black-esque shades. And that's how I use them in my look, and I found that they serve the same purpose. And I do tend to like to see shades like this in a palette because it really does make any palette truly universal. Now a few formula highlights. The mattes did everything wonderfully. I got them to build, layer, and blend beautifully. You have enough mattes in here to create a single green gradient, and that's all I could ask for in a small palette, so I'm pretty happy with that. And I found this matte formula to be a more buildable formula, so as you layer it on your eye, you're going to have to keep building it up to get the intensity that you want. And now for the non-mattes, there is a duochrome shimmer included, and I thought that was pretty cool for this affordable of a palette. The 2 metallics in here are quite chunky. Although the 2 metallics are chunky, the 6 shimmers included are very smooth and creamy. And I also attempted all application methods with the non-mattes in here, and it doesn't matter which method you use, they all work. And if you've ever seen this palette, or you are curious about this, or you were looking for a green palette, I totally recommend grabbing this. This is an excellent addition to anybody's collection, and I think it's fabulous. Now, of course, I have 3 reasons why I recommend it, so here we go. First and foremost, this palette is very easy to work with, and I always love to recommend palettes that work in your favor and not against you, and this palette definitely does that. My second reason is that you can create a lot of different eye look variations because there's a lot of depth in here. Like I mentioned earlier, this palette gives you a ton of versatility, so although it's mainly consists of greens, you can do a ton with it. And my third reason is that these 2 metallics in here will blow your mind. I think they are stunning for a $3 palette. I was not expecting that whatsoever, so just playing with these made my day. So yeah guys, for this palette's rating, I rated this an A. This palette's definitely on par with other formulas in my collection, and I look forward to using this over and over again. So that is all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful, and if you did like it, please give me a giant thumbs up, and if you didn't like it, just hit that thumbs down button, and until next time,